Hi, my name is Bill. This is the fourth section of some of the foolish little lessons I've learned that you may already know, but I'm just here maybe to remind a few people that have possibly forgotten. This fourth section is about information, not to be confused with knowledge, as some people would most probably confuse it for. I'm talking about information. I'm talking about data, things that you've heard, things that you've seen on TV, things that people have told you, tried to teach you, has taught you when you were younger. I'm talking about the stuff that you've learned without ever questioning. The stuff that you've learned that might be wrong. You, in the course of your life to adulthood and beyond, are constantly being told things. Your parents teach you stuff. Maybe your church or we're teaching you things, telling you things are true. Your teachers at school, your parents later in life when you have questions, friends, more importantly nowadays, television, news media, the internet, the worst culprit there. They present a lot of information to you. And the ability to filter the information is so important. But that's not the main point of this. I am just trying to establish to you what information is. Grasp what information is. For example, when my teacher in school told me that this person did this thing at that place on this date, that's information. Simple. It's not a fact. It's not knowledge. The information she provided was just that, information. Now, there is a level of knowledge in what she said if you identify her, the teacher, telling you this. But most people don't take most people don't see that difference there. They say, oh yes, Napoleon Bonaparte did this on this day, in this place. It's most probably true, but you weren't there. And again, you might question, well, we'll never know anything. Well, probably not. But at least we're prepared and we present information as it is. We are aware that we can't ever really know that Napoleon did what he did. We have to trust that this teacher and this textbook knows what they're talking about. Well, I don't think that's really important. I think it's more important to say that the information provided most likely is true, but I'll never know it to be true. That's why I always say the textbook said this or the teacher said that. I won't sit back and I won't argue with anybody telling you that Napoleon did this on this day, because the ultimate question comes back, were you there? Of course I wasn't there. I wasn't even born. Same goes for the internet and anything else. Even what people tell you, stories, what coworkers tell you, what your family tells you, that's just information. You're given information all the time, as I mentioned. Your education is just based on information being shared. But we mistakenly take it as knowledge, when in fact, it's not knowledge. It's just information. And it's information we can use. It's information that's beneficial. But ultimately, when you really look at it, it's not knowledge. So, being able to identify knowledge versus information is very important. An example would be that I was told by a coworker that she saw on television a report about a robbery in my neighborhood. Well, what my coworker is telling me is she's giving me information from the knowledge that she saw something on television, of the knowledge of the information that was on television, and the TV reporter was speaking of something that happened in my neighborhood, which I had no knowledge of. Now that's a whole different levels upon levels of knowledge versus information. Information is something you're told. If I tell you something, if I tell you there's a tree in my backyard, that's information. But if you tell somebody else that I told you there's a tree in my backyard, that's knowledge. Difference being, you heard me say that there's a tree in my backyard versus saying there's a tree in my backyard. I could have lied to you. I could have been dreaming. There might not be a tree in my backyard. I might be using it as an example. Whatever the case, information is data that you're given. It's not true, it's not false, it's not right, it's not wrong. It's just information that you are given, and you need to realize that. So, if you go and tell somebody about the tree that's in my yard, says, yeah, there's a tree in my friend's yard. Well, suppose I lied to you. Then you go to my yard and there's not a tree there. You look stupid. You could say, well, he told me that. Well, that's too late. What you should say is, yeah, my friend says he has a tree just like that in his yard. Boom. You've already established that you heard someone say, you know that I said something and you're saying it. You're creating a source for that information, which makes it knowledge. Information is stuff that you're not privy to. Information is something that you have not personally perceived or sensed yourself. If the news media says something is happening somewhere around the world, then, well, something's happening around the world and they said it. But that doesn't mean it's happening. You don't know it's happening. You don't know that that event is taking place. They may even provide video clips, which will help create the illusion that, yes, you're seeing it for yourself. But we don't know if that situation is staged. And we live in a world now where events are sometimes staged by different groups. So what we know is that we're seeing a TV program that is presenting some information about events in another country. We don't know these events are taking place. Now, we could say, well, I've seen it on 5 different sources, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean you know it. Now, if you were to be in the location as happening and come back and say, yeah, I was there, well, you personally would know it happened. But by you telling somebody else, you're just presenting information because the other person you're telling was never there. What I propose is this. Information is knowledge. Oh, no, that's not right. Information is data that you have not personally experienced yourself. It comes from an outside source. Knowledge is something you perceive yourself. Something you see or hear or taste or feel or sense, whatever the case might be. So when we are engaged in our life and we interact with people, it's really important it's exceedingly important to be able to distinguish what constitutes information, things we don't personally experience, versus knowledge, things we do personally experience. Because there's a lot of information out there in this new age we're in, and it's getting worse. People are giving us information all the time. And if we start accepting information based on some credentials, if a college professor starts telling us something is true, then, well, if we believe it without question, if we accept what he has to say without question, we're wrong. If we deny it, well, we're still kind of wrong. But if we take it as just simple information from a college professor that we can quote at any given time, we can always say, well, my college professor, John Brown, said this, this, and this, versus this, this, and this is true. And then someone says, well, how do you know it's true? And you say, well, my college professor said it's true. It makes you look like an idiot when you just accept something someone else says versus quoting the source of where it came from in an attempt to establish that I don't know it's true, but my accredited college professor says it's true. So it helps make you look smarter, while at the same time it gives you access to that information, which somebody might agree with or might not agree with. And if we establish this from the start, when we discuss information or a topic or an idea or any general conversation you might be in, if you establish information as that, information from a source, then you can say, yes, that's knowledge. I heard it there. He said this. I saw that. He said this. Whatever the case might be, if you distinguish one from the other, it'll benefit you, because in your head, it's going to be filed away. You won't be accepting everything people tell you. You'll just take that as information, which might be true. You might experience something that justifies what someone said. And in doing so, you can say, well, damn, they were right. And I'll take that as knowledge. But until you actually experience it yourself, it's just information. Because you don't know. You weren't there. And some would argue that, well, that's a silly idea. I mean, we got to accept something. So no, we don't have to accept anything. Never, ever accept something as true. Unless you personally experience it, you don't know if it's true. All you know is that this person says it's true. And this person could be an idiot, could have made a mistake in the process of his learning or his conclusions. And this person might just be outright lying to you for you to believe a certain narrative. So all I'm asking you is this. Instead of accepting blindly what people tell you, what you see on TV or the internet, or dismissing it, which is equally wrong, take it for what it is. Take it for information and quote the source of the information, so that if you do get in a situation where you have to reveal some information you've heard versus something you've known or something you know, then you won't look the fool, as I have so many times in the past. Quoting something that you think is true, but in fact is not, makes you look stupid. And the person that taught you that, or shared it with you, or convinced you it was true, that person is laughing in the background because you made the fool of yourself. In conclusion, I'll say this. Learn to file away everything you experience accordingly. What you experience firsthand is knowledge. What somebody tells you, or what you see on a TV screen or internet or social media, or what somebody discusses with you, that's all information that they're giving you. Now, your reference to that information is knowledge, because that's your personal experience. But that knowledge, that information itself, that's just information. Quit assigning facts or fiction to information. Wait till you experience it yourself. And with that, I'll finish. Just remember to be better today than you were yesterday.